Step outside.
Hey everyone, thank you all for being here with us this evening. We are Indigenous Ways Wisdom Circle. And before we get started this evening, we would like to give a shout out to all the ancestors from where you beam in from, the ancestors from here, Ogapoge Awinge, also known as Santa Fe. And we want to acknowledge all of you here with us tonight for a wonderful evening with our sister Dezbaa, who hails from the Navajo culture of the Noda Dene, from the Ute clan of the Navajo people, and some Hispanic in there as well. We are so blessed to have Dezbaa here residing in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Dezbaa graduated from the Institute of American Indian Arts in the Master of Fine Arts degree and has just taken off running with getting involved in filming and writing and producing and directing and all this wonderful stuff. So we're going to talk a little bit about how Dezbaa got to where she is today and what her future aspirations may be. So let's give a big welcome to Dezbaa. Thank you for joining us, sister.
Woo-hoo-hoo!
Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah. So let's hear a little bit about yourself and we'll go from there.
So I'm from North. I was born in Santa Fe. So yat Asia Dezbaa no da adene bashishin nakai dashiche ashini dashinala. Um, I was born in Santa Fe and I live here currently. I've been living in Santa Fe for the last 5 years. Um, I grew up in northern New Mexico, went to school in Espanola area. I'm very proud of that fact, because a lot of times when I've stepped onto the set and no one knows who I am, which is, kind of par for the course, they will ask me like, "Oh, are you from LA?" And I'll be like, "No." They're like, "Oh, well, are you from Canada?" And they're like, "No." And they're like, "Well, where are you from?" I'm like, "I'm from here." Like it just took me 20 minutes to get here. So I'm just really proud of the fact that like that's I've been able to do what I've been doing and I'm from here. And if you accidentally hear my dog snoring, he's
That's
um
great.
yeah, I started doing this about 8 years ago in 2016. I did not have the I didn't know what I was doing. But I just, went based on a whim and kind of fell into this. And I've just been going in that direction ever since. Before that, like I have a degree in geology from Amherst College. I'm also a licensed massage therapist. I still keep my license because it's a pain in the butt to try to renew it and pay the fees, and do that whole thing. So I have like this really varied background. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so the interesting thing about going into the arts, whatever genre of your choice it may be, it's great to study and gather all the information of the whole interest. But then once it's time to graduate and kind of jump out there or get thrown out there, it's like, is the world really your oyster? Or is it easy? Is it hard? Did doors just fling open for you? I mean, how did you start your career once you started 8 years ago, and now all of a sudden we can see you on a major platform like Dark Winds? How did that all happen?
I mean, I'm really grateful to all my education, but in some ways, I also don't feel like it's just everybody's pathway is different. In general, I have a love-hate relationship with education. Um, it took me a really long time to get through my bachelor's, and it was really difficult getting through that, because I went away to the East Coast, and then I came back and I did better, at the community college at Northern New Mexico College, because I just feel like I was more secure in my identity and who I was, and I was home. But I really had this like desire to go out into the world. Even that, with Amherst College being the, amazing liberal arts college that it is, it it's been a struggle for me with education sometimes. And I actually didn't want to go to graduate school. My mentor, when I went back to Northern New Mexico College, after a series of unfortunate events in my life, David Lindblom encouraged me to go to IAIA because he was also an alum from there. And he said, you're really good at writing. And I said, no, I'm not. And he's like, yes, you are. You should consider it. And it's a really good college. He's like, it's for Native Americans, but it's also open to everybody. But, it's specifically for, helping indigeneity. And so I finally relented and I applied like the last minute. Like I had to make sure that I called the admissions office just to make sure that they got my application because it was just so last minute. Um, and I did, not only did I finish my first MFA during the pandemic in 2020, then I was crazy enough to go back for what they call a second genre option. And I finished a second MFA in creative nonfiction after that. But I didn't want to go to graduate school because I was so scared for my bachelor's experience. And although I really appreciate what the college did for me, and I definitely advocate for anyone going there and going for it, education doesn't always mean that you're going to get your foot in the door in this industry. It's not like a straight shot into like the film industry. It's really all about luck, honestly, and determination, I think, which usually gets you a lot of places in life, just in general.
Right. Exactly. Like determination and staying power. I've been thinking about that a lot is how many things we think about as we're growing up and what we want to do, what we want to be, and we get all these great visions and see it all, but to actually put our hands into that mud and start making the sculptures and doing the paintings and mixing the paint or putting the letters on a blank page. I mean, and making it happen and seeing all the different complicated mechanics of it all and techniques and stuff to learn and just go, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to become a master of this? Because somewhere I read it takes 10,000 hours to even qualify. It's like, whoa, how am I going to get 10,000 hours worth of gigs or music practice for that matter, or writing? That's a lot of hours. So,
Yeah.
how did you get into acting and writing, and what did it feel like to be a part of Dark Winds with a vast Indigenous cast and crew?
Um, so I've been saying this quite a lot lately because, you know, I don't know how I did what I did. I just right time, right place, and just keep going. But like I said, I started off in geology. I wasn't really happy working for the Navajo Nation. I wanted to be useful to my people, and it was very hard to do that and fulfill that desire to be helpful. Um, so, and I wasn't really doing geology. Well, my sister, she is a nurse, and she, on her days off, sometimes, she's a glutton for punishment. Instead of working 12 hours for as a nurse, she would rather be out in the heat and the cold and the wind and the rain and the snow, working as a background for different shows. So she really, that was like her way of her downtime, the stress of like working in a hospital. Um, and she just, I guess she came across like some casting call, and I don't even remember who put it out. I know between Catherine Brink and Angelique Midthunder, I'm sure they had done this. Um, and my sister said, you should submit to this. She's like, sent me the email or whatever it was, and I'm like, I can't do this. I had gone to these like model call things that they'd done, years before, and they have you go to the hotel and they take pictures, and then they just like, oh, okay, well, if you pay us $500, we can get you a gig, types of things. And I'm like, that's stupid. I'm not gonna do this. But I went ahead and did it anyways because I was trying to make my sister happy. And I sent in a picture, I didn't really have boxing experience, or, I'm not athletic. But anyway, so I did that, and then I got an audition, and I went up to Farmington when I was living in Gallup, and they just gave me, like whatever the sides were or the script. I think they gave me the whole script at the time. And Kathy just said, I'm moving you to the next phase. And she said, Angelique or somebody will reach out to you. And And then this time I really had to go to Santa Fe. And I said, do I have to actually really go to Santa Fe at this time? And they're like, yes. And it was the middle of the week. And meanwhile, I'm working as a government worker. And I'm like, okay, I can't. All right, I'll fine. I'll take the time off to do this. And I did. And then Angelique said, do you have an agent? And I said, no, you should consider getting headshots and getting that whole thing together. She's like, I don't want to tell you what to do, but, you should I was strongly urged. And even the guy who I was doing a chemistry read with also agreed. He's like, yeah, you should get an agent. It's like, okay. And that basically was the start of it, was just on a whim. I wasn't like I never tried to look for being like, oh, I want to be famous. Oh, I want to, I had this dream. And I'm not poo-pooing that. It's just like, it never occurred to me. I look back at my life when I was 3 years old, and I would press my face up to the screen to the colors and the dots and the pixels were, that's all that was left of the people. And I think that I wanted to be inside the box when I was like a little kid, but I never put the two together that this was something I wanted to do. I loved making stories. I would have dreams and I would write stories about them when I was in 8th grade. My teacher, Miss Owens, was the one who encouraged me. I made my first play when I was in 3rd grade, but still, like, it took, decades and failing at college and failing at all these other things for me to finally realize maybe, this is something you want to do. And I had always tried to be a scientist. I love science. I still do. But I was like trying to force myself to be someone else that it wasn't easy for me to be. And this is still not easy for me to be, but there's a certain amount of passion in it that I desire to want to do this. And I think that's partially what has fueled me into doing that. So that was the acting. And, Dark Winds, it was just me. And I'm purposely leaving out a lot of details, but I basically was just like, okay, how many Navajo screenwriters really are there? I could probably count them on my hands. And, there's plenty of native screenwriters, but I was like, guys, I'm just got my MFA in screenwriting. I'm Navajo, and this is a Navajo show. And you really need to hire a Navajo writer. And like, I'm leaving out a lot of information, but basically I finally was able to have a chance to have someone, up in the network look at my work. And then before I knew it, after a little bit of gatekeeping, which I don't even know what happened, because that's the stuff that, everyone behind the scenes knows about. I just got a meeting with the showrunner, and he said, all right, you have from tonight on a Tuesday until tomorrow night on a Wednesday, decide if you want to move to, Santa Monica to be a part of the writer's room next week. And I had to think about it because, I have a kid, and that was the first thing that happened was I said, oh, well, my kid's in the next room, much like right now. And he's like, oh, you have a kid? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, well, we'll just talk about it and you can decide later. But it was because of that. He's like, I know family is first, and this is a huge decision for you because you're a single mom. But I made it work because, I had remembered that a lot of times mothers say, well, I can't do this because I have a kid. Oh, I'm, my kid comes first. And I'm not, again, that's what I hear a lot. But when my mom said that to me, I said, why didn't you pursue this? Why didn't you do this? And she's like, oh, well, I had kids. And then I had to put that aside. And I internalized it and I interpreted it in a different way. And I was like, I don't ever want my kid to think that I stopped pursuing my dreams because of them. I want to show them that I can try to find the balance of pursuing my dreams and taking care of them at the same time. It's like, how many times do we have like couples who, especially professors, my brother's a professor, that they work to figure it out. They find they find the way forward. It's a problem solving effort. And I didn't want to try to find all the problems in having a kid. And the same thing with like dating. It's like, I come as a whole package of Barbie comes with the baby already, and it's like, you got to deal with us, not just me, us. And it's never been like an option. So I was like, I have to start thinking it that way. My life with my kid is not an option of like, I can't do this because of my kid. I'm doing this because of my kid. I am saying yes because of my kid. My kid gives me my fuel and my desire to move myself in a different direction and figure it out, as opposed to like finding all the ways that are the dead ends because I have a kid. I'm like, no, taking this kid with me, we're going on an adventure, we're traveling the world, we're doing it, and that's kind of the way I guess that kind of determination has helped me in all these other different avenues. If there's like a no, okay, well, let's figure out where to find the yes.
That is so inspiring for mothers out there that are like, I want to do this and I need to listen to Dezbaa talk about this. So, what inspires your storytelling, and what do you anticipate audiences to take from this? And also, do you have an audience in mind when you write your material? Like, do you want to educate people about indigeneity or stuff like that?
Um, so where does my inspiration and like who's my audience? Um, I think, looking kind of where I'm at right now and what the kind of projects that I'm working on. So I recently did a short film with my kiddo and their father, so my ex-husband. And that was for the NYU writer directors workshop. NYU Tish came down to Santa Fe and worked with 11 Native American writer directors for 3 weeks. We workshopped scripts and learned, just kind of um, how to be a director, how to look at things as a director for like 2 weeks, and then also wrote like a really short script. So mine was originally 7 pages, and then I shot three and a half of that. So my kiddo is always kind of like, again, my inspiration. And then my dad is also, my whole family is my inspiration. My life is my own inspiration. And I don't say that with ego. I say that with like, this is something for other people to look at within themselves. Because I know it's hard. I know it's difficult. They always say, write what you know. And I'm like, my boring life is not worth thinking about or looking at. But then I also like, well, like, let's just put my own judgment of myself aside. Let's look at me objectively. And so it's like, well, I'm a mother. I'm sorry. What else am I gonna write about? Sorry if this is boring to you. But that's what I know. So I wrote about my life and my struggles with my love life initially. And then that was my thesis, basic like inspiration for my thesis MFA at school. But this short, my 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 ex kind of actually inspired me. We reconnected in this like interesting way that I never anticipated would happen. We were completely separated for just trying to do our best co-parenting without talking. Text message thing. And then it just kind of like turned a corner where we're like, hey, I actually see you as a person and a human being, and likewise, and to kind of shorten it. And just there was this funny moment. I'm like, only this guy of all the people that I know would have this particular scenario happen to him. And it was just like we were supposed to come up with a brief encounter. And yeah, so he inspired that. And I'm like, all right, here we go. This is what we're doing, but I want to bring my kid into this project. And then I'm like, you know what? I don't want to have to go look for actors. So I got him. He said he was in Greece in high school, so he should be fine. And then my kid is an actor, so I'll just work with them. And then I got some background actors. And then Tony Obeta was like, hey, I want to help you with your product. And I was like, sure, come on board. And other people were just like, hey, I want to help you with this. And, I had a lot of volunteers who were like, okay, I want to help you. So I was like, all right. But then my dad, oh yeah, I skipped around. Sorry. My dad is also partially inspiring me because he and I had gone to Bosque Redondo in 2018, I believe, and he had invited me to go to the memorial walk that was happening there. And he got inspired because he had been raised by a white family up in Bloomfield, New Mexico, and he decided that he wanted to try to look into that. I had encouraged him since he retired from working at the Los Alamos Labs to take a class at Northern so he can stay out of my mom's way from retirement. And so he did. So he took a guitar class, but then I also encouraged him, me and David both encouraged him to take a class in film. So he took like a video production class and he took a screenwriting course. And from that, he just started writing. And then it just inspired me to want to help him look at these aspects of himself, and what better way than through storytelling. Fast forward to where I was teaching a screenwriting course at Northern last year, or earlier this year, 2024. And he was my student. So I was trying to help him try to basically make a bio narrative of his life that was inspired by working on the short documentary that I did last year with him at Bosque Redondo. So the kind of inspiring stories I tell everyone, your story counts, your story matters. And if I'm not doing that myself, like, am I being hypocritical, to saying this is how it can work? And so right now I'm currently trying to ask my dad, through email, like, what's a memory you remember of like how you met your best friend? What kind of like problems or situations did you get yourself? I know some of these stories because they talk about them always during dinner time or with family reunions and whatnot. And they're funny to us, but how can I make them also funny to the rest of the world and to people? And so what I realized in joining that with IAIA, what IAIA helped me was to explore my indigeneity, right? So that like, because I also grew up with like one foot in and one foot, in a different world, because I am Navajo, I have my CIB, but my mom's Mexican Indigenous, but we're not sure exactly from where. There's a lot of things that have been cut off culturally from us in the name of surviving through that, to be more white passing in our culture, be more white passing in our way, our thinking. And so I've been doing my best to move across those borders and those walls with both of my parents in some ways. With my dad, it was me moving back home to the Navajo Nation. I was like learning how to speak Navajo, read Navajo, learn how to make moccasins, learn how to do weaving, learn a little bit about our stories. For some people, it's not enough. But I'm sorry to upset you with my not enoughness. But I just like, that's all me. That's all that I grew up in northern New Mexico. I grew up not knowing this. I own what I don't know, and I own what I do know, and I'm capable of learning, and I'm capable of holding on to all these truths and not allowing like other people's idea of what I need to be or who I am to get the better of me, because that's the only way for me to move forward, is to know who I am and what I can bring, and owning all that knowledge. So I feel like in exploring my own indigeneity and having that space at IAI, because this is like a flux and a safe space for all of these Indigenous people from all over the world, and also to the allies who are holding space for us as well, and actually very authentically curious to be holding space for us. I think that helped facilitate, my dad's wanting to understand where he comes from and where like his white way of thinking comes in. And then also like owning and presenting as this Navajo man, and then also owning what he does have and not being ashamed of the little or the too much or whatever it is, right? And then on the other side with my daughter, my child, they are non-binary. And so that's also part of the inspiration for this short film that I made too. These are the stories that like the rest of the world are like, oh, but you don't live on the res and you don't have a res story, so therefore you're not authentic. And I'm like, no, I'm an urban native, and like we relocated for a job. My family, we have our own reasons for doing the things that we do. Our parents were trying to be able to make our lives better for us in the future. And I'm doing the same thing too by holding that space for my child to be able to feel comfortable in their own skin. And then also allowing my dad to be able to be comfortable in his own skin, because that's the thing that I'm working on within myself. So it kind of comes full circle with the what inspires me and like what audience I'm like working towards. It's like I want to be welcoming of all kinds of people. And sometimes, I will be cautious about it, but just to kind of throw it in there, one of the other things too is like, how can I see what I so vehemently see as wrong or bad? But like, how did it get that way? And how can we bridge that healing so that we can all be in this space of love? How can we be all in that space of Wuzhou? How can we all like then move forward with this vision and this focus and this intention on making this place welcoming and accepting for all without having to worry about like, not being accepted or being othered, even by the others, and vice versa, the trying to get over those things. But it takes also self-reflection of saying like, well, what part am I doing in creating that sense of other within someone else? So that's why like I've been trying to sit with these things in a different space of the film industry, but also at the same time, how am I using this kind of like meditation on otherness or selfness or, inward journeys to be able to understand like how to push forward in a more connected way in the film industry to create more connection, more storytelling, more space for everyone.
Wow, I think you're holding space for me. You're holding space for us, and you're holding space for everyone with what you're doing, and incredibly courageous for taking this route. Because obviously, you came into this already having careers, education, majors, life experiences, love, heartbreak, breakup, childbearing, and to come into this and say, you know what? I've got a story. I'm going to try this. But not just the acting, but also with the writing and the producing and the directing. I mean, that's like out of a playbook from Charlie Chaplin from the silent era. I mean, this guy was a friggin' genius. And he had people laughing about tragedy, and it was all silent pantomime. And he learned a lot of his stuff from deaf people. And he brought the deaf people into his shows that were the best actors out of all. And but Elvis Presley learned how to dance and sing and play the blues from the African American people that he was hanging out with in Memphis, Tennessee. And these people are just out there doing the do. I mean, we had Gene Brave Rock, and boy, he had his story about his struggles in Montana from the Black, not Montana, pardon me, Canada, from the Blackfoot tribe and what they had to deal with. And then we had Dakota Beavers with his beauty and his challenges. He stepped into prey and happened to just get the part without really like having any training. And all of you doing your due is good for all of us to see and to hear, to experience, to realize that, you know what? One thing is it's never too late. I am anti-ageism. I love all generations. I love the little tiny itsy bitsy babies, and I love the most elderly person that I can sit on a hill with or under a tree with and just listen to their stories about back in the day. They go into that story, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is so cool, especially in language. So I guess my next question is, has the film industry been welcoming to Indigenous input and ideas when Indigenous characters are developed in stories? Because the general stereotype is, oh, you're Native, you're brown, so tell us about the Comanches. What would you do for this characterization? Can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, how can that go in a direction to I don't want to say cultural appropriate, but to be true to the story and the characters.
It's still really kind of hard to like talk about because there's just so many varied ways that it just goes. Even I've asked to be consulting on a lot of scripts that are with non-native writers. I'm like, can you look at this? Can you help me with this? I want to make sure this is right. Um, and a lot of them are friends. I love you. I really do. Thank you for asking me. Um, but it also, so it goes from there to like I said before, it's like, oh, well, that's not res enough. That's not, so there's still kind of a little bit of this like romanticized idea of like what it means to be native, and the only people you're going to listen to are the people who are from the res. And they're not, anyone else who wasn't born on the res isn't authentic enough. But then also you have all kinds of stuff. You have films being shot in other countries that are supposed to be about Native Americans here in America. We have Canadians playing Navajos. We have Navajos playing a Lakota, so it's still just all over the place right now. And I don't want to speak down to anything, not because I'm afraid of, it's because it's just difficult. Like I taught an Indigenous cinema class at Northern also, and I did ask a lot of my friends because, there's a lot of Native cinema out there. A lot of it isn't like online. A lot of it isn't published. A lot of it isn't mainstream. So I'm asking friends, do you know of what, so and so who might be doing this or doing that? But I asked a lot of friends. I'm like, hey, what's your favorite Native movie? Thunderheart, Little Big Man, Dancing with Wolves. That someone I think might have jokingly said Twilight, but like, it comes from everywhere. And I try to develop my class in saying, look, here's these big budget, $20 million, like, breaking the door wide open stuff that was by a non-native person about natives. We need to look at this because it provided a platform for this person to be able to get this far. We also have to look at like the local filmmakers, and seeing what they're doing, because each one is like a piece moving on the chessboard. And I mean, I'm not going to be the person to say, so and so, even though they were playing the part of whatever it was for a white film. I'm happy that they're able to live their dream and do the thing that they want to do because they're feeding their family, they're putting it on their resume, they're getting experience. Maybe that'll be the foot in the door for them to be able to do something else and move ahead in a different way. There was this one local film that was like no budget, like I think it's called The Dead Can Dance. It was like this great feature film. I'm sorry I forgot the name of the person who wrote and directed, but it was a really well done, like no budget film. And I loved it and I shared it in my class. I did some other stuff by Ryan Redcorn, who's a friend of mine who did Dead Bird Hearts. A lot of short films, Shandine Tome. I also Long Line of Ladies, and some, like in that mix of that, we do find it. There are a lot of artists too who are like artists, like visual artists, potters, painters, and so forth. When you look at some of their art, especially like in the 70s, and I'm not an art history person, so please forgive me, but you look at it and sometimes they're also using stuff that like is not from their own tribe. They're not their own culture, but they're putting it in because they like it. And maybe it's more like, using types of colors. I mean, Navajo weavers, we did that all the time. Germantown yarns bringing in from the East Coast, and we put them in the blankets and we come up with these things. And now there's this, who actually really started the Navajo blankets? Was it the traders? Was it, the Navajo women because they were not supposed to be making blankets anymore? This, rugs are more valuable and more profitable. there's like this huge collaboration. So where is this going? I don't know.
It's great.
It's just it is what it is. I think that we're all doing our best to push ourselves ahead. I'm all I just had a meeting with a friend of mine who was just like, hey, I've been gone from the industry for a while and I'm sitting on a pile of scripts. How can we get some of this made? And I said, well, let's start one step at a time. Here's this idea that I have. And we shook on it. Um, it's stuff like that. How do we get it to native mainstream? Where, yeah, we're always going to love Little Big Man for whatever it is. We're always going to, have our allies who are making our films with us, with our input. But I feel like it's all small steps ahead, and it's the collaboration and it's the experience and it's what we make of it. And I want to be able to applaud everybody for their efforts in moving ahead. The only thing I don't like is just inauthentic people generally, period. I don't care what culture it is. I don't care what's this. If the inauthentic person, period, the liar, the whatever, whoever it is, the person doesn't matter their culture. That's the only person that I'm not interested in really working with. That's the only, to me, like the biggest fraud of all of them is just the person who's a fraud to themselves and a fraud as a friend or whatever. That's
Yep.
more like character based than it
Right.
is much, what where we come from. And I've based off some of the things of certain people with that. And I'm like, I don't trust this person. I'm not gonna work with them.
It's a fierce industry. There's no doubt about it. The music industry is very fierce. The film industry is very fierce. The writing industry is very fierce because it's very competitive. Um, Hence, Indigenous Ways, full inclusion, everyone's welcome. If you got a story, contact us. We will find a platform for you, whether it's outside, under the sun, in a nice, gentle rain, or in a theater stage, or on a screen like this. We will find a space for you to tell your story. And the more different, the more other, the better. Intergenerational, multicultural, all of the above. There is no right. So for someone to say, this is the exact way to do this because this is what my ancestors did 30,000 years ago, I'm not going to believe them. You know, the point is that we're going into that tache, the sweat lodge, to pray. We're going in there to sweat. We're going in there to test our strength. We're going in there to hurt so we can get deeper into ourself that's so broken. And the more pain we have, the stronger we're going to be in that sweating, sweat, dark sweat lodge ceremony. Are we doing it right? Are we doing it exactly the way our ancestors did it? Probably not. But to me, it's about the sacred intention. It's about the sacred intention to go in there to pray and not expect to just go in there and be, flowered on clouds and get a massage and a pedicure and a manicure and pray like that. We pray to connect with that part of ourself that we don't even know. So that's my take on that. So changing gears or pivoting, if you will, let's talk about your experience at IAIA. And did this experience encourage your discovery of self to go maybe explore more? I don't like to use the word dig because dig implies digging, but exploring is a better word to say. What was that experience like to be amongst other natives and all others? Because IA is very much inclusive in that way as well.
I compare it. There's this college program that I went to years ago when I was, in high school. It's called College Horizons, I think it was. And that was, I'm going to tie it in with IAI. That was the first time that I had ever experienced like a blonde or redhead, blue-eyed Native American. I mean, I'm here in Tewa country, and everybody's dark skin, brown eyes, black hair. And then there's me. And I definitely didn't fit in. That's what's called genes, genetics. I'm, way more than half, quote, blood quantum native because of my mom. But my great grandfather was Spanish, and he was blonde and blue eyed and had red pinky skin. My older brother is very much dark skinned, black eyed, brown eyes and black hair. And so me and my middle sister, we both just kind of got the genetic lottery of like being this way. So that was my first experience, and it really kind of shocked me. Is I'm like, wait, these people are native? And my first time I met Potawatomi, I'm like, whoa, wait, there's someone else. Like, where do you come from? And it kind of reminded me similar to that at IAIA, where you just run into so many people, and I feel like it helps with me not trying to judge others. I totally get this idea, and I'm totally aware of this pretendian thing that's been going on for a long time. But again, like for me, my lens is me looking at myself in the mirror all the time and seeing this. And so it's like, how can I be judging someone else for the way they look? Again, it goes back to what I said a minute ago about the authenticity of the person. And so it made me feel comfortable to know that there were so many other people, not only that looked native, but they were also, I don't want to say struggling, but they were searching also too, because that's the time that you can just figure out like, hey, I'm feeling this way, or like, exploring, because we're trying to figure out how to connect with others through our words, through our writing, and how better to connect with others by self-exploration of like, who am I? Why am I here? How am I feeling? And then maybe that might connect with someone else. On my business cards that I need to update, I wrote on the back, like I write so that, can't remember what I wrote, but it's something like I write so that I can connect with others so that I don't feel like I'm so alone. And I think that that's still part of, I, I feel like that's still um, true with the storytelling, with the way, the visual medium, but also still like the writing, still with the presenting and the talking. Um, I just want to be able to connect with others. So like I had mentioned earlier about my dad, I think it really did help me to have that space to be like, it's okay to explore because there are other people who are exploring. It's okay to not have the answers because we're all looking for, quote, the answers. And that's what I really truly appreciated about the mentors. um they're great. There's definitely a couple who I just pop out in my brain as like amazing mentors. I just love them to death. I still to this day talk to them, text them, and telling them how I'm doing. And I just loved being able to share what I'm doing and to say, hey, because I'm like, it's every time I tell them what I'm doing, I'm like, to me, it's like a thank you, thank you for like, pushing me and believing in me, um, because they're great. They're great at what they do. Um, and I really did appreciate all my colleagues, everybody that I went to school with and met. One of my good friends, like, uh, who became one of my good friends, but then also like I hadn't known who they were. She just texted me or Instagrammed me one day and said, we had barely like talked, and she's like, hey, do you want to go on a road trip with me? I'm like, sure. She's like, you seem like the kind of person who would go on a road trip with me and not know who I am. I'm like, actually, you're right. And then we went on a road trip to go to Osage Nation, to Wajaji Nation. And that was also like a really eye-opening experience. And so we have all those things. I recently was at the Heard Museum, and I had a reconnecting with Iwa. We had a really great conversation after our presentations at the Heard. But it's just like such a great community of people, and I get to like see all the wonderful things that they're doing. So all around, I mean, that's kind of like a superficial like answer, but it's it really helped to shape. And I was going through a lot at the time. So, of course, like my love story on the page and, all this other stuff that was going on with me. And I got to talk about it and I learned methods and techniques and realized that writers, it's a hard job being a writer. It's a lot of like willing yourself to write. And then there are some people who can't stop writing and then they have the task of trying to pare it down. So it's hell on both sides.
Well,
You
it's interesting. It's interesting how people go to IAIA and go in there with the imposter syndrome and come out finding identity and come back walking out of there with an authenticity unto self to be able to go out that road of life with no instruction manual except this thing that the resources and the tools to hold on to, along with the contacts and all that, is really important, I believe. So awesome, this is so cool. I have one last question for you, and then we'll take a little quick commercial break for Elena to talk about the nonprofit, and then we'll see if we have time to see if anybody wants to come in and say hi to you. The last question I have from you, which comes from our board member, Nicole Oxendine, who may be in this evening, I'm not sure, but it is about ancestrality. They whisper me through. What does that bring up for you?
They whisper me through. When I hear that, it reminds me, like, I feel like instead of saying the word guides, it's like whispers. And I feel like that whispers is connected to the idea of talking, right? And so we're being put in the listening, receiving side of that wisdom, right? Because they say, oftentimes, listen to that inner voice, but it's like, the voices of our ancestors. It's like the voices of the voice of the universe all combined. It reminds me, like I recently saw this like really quick social media reel. It was Maya Angelou, and she was saying, she brings all of the people who've loved her, everyone who supported her, bringing them onto the stage, and in everything that she does, she brings them with you, or she brings them with her. It reminds me of, this idea that and I was also talking to Iwa, like, where do we go from here? Our success, our path, my own feelings of imposter syndrome as a single mother, with this big ambition, and being the matriarch of my family. Where do I go from here? I don't have a guidebook. I don't have like anything to go with me. And um and I'm like thinking like, how do I not let my family down? How I don't know what I'm doing. And I realized, matching that with what I had said, like, what if the answers, like, if we're not letting down our ancestors, if we feel like we're responsible to them, if we feel like we're letting down our community, our people, what if and this is the wisdom that I got from my partner. He's like, what if you just took care of yourself? And and I match that with the meditations that I've been doing because I'm going inward to listen to that voice, to listen to the voice of God, and to listen to what the ancestors and everybody who's holding me are guiding me, whispering to me. And they're trying to tell me, this is how you do this. Put one sock on at a time, put one pant leg on at a time. Drink your water, eat your vegetables, take care of yourself, because there's only one way to be a warrior, is to be ready, to be prepared, to know how to guide, to get your rest, to get your sleep. Because if you're going to fight, you're going to have to fight full force with all of your strength, with all of your heart, with all of your mind. And how can you do that if you're not taking care of yourself?
Right. Beautiful. Beautiful. And I just want to see one thing said. I want to say one thing, and I want to see the interpreter Chris sign it. I see a feather floating down from the sky ever so slowly. And I'm looking at that feather in slow motion just coming down from the sky. And it provokes all these images of indigeneity And there's the whisper right there. There's the wind. Thank you. I'm going to pass it on. I love you, Chris. Thank you for being here with us tonight, too, brother. Here's Elena. And yeah, Des.
Thanks, Tash, and yeah, Dezbaa, for that incredible blessings and inspiration that you have inspired us all. You know, never mess around with mothers. And also sharing your story, which is so important, not only through the arts, through the screenwriting. What an inspiration. So thank you, thank you, thank you. This time here, I thought I'd rush through this, but I thought I'd better take my time because I don't want to give everyone a heart attack and then invite with the remaining time, if we have any, any left, people who may want to have some questions for Dezbaa. But this is our commercial break now of what happens. So each third Wednesday of the month in the Wisdom Circle, where we are now, we have extraordinary presenters like you've just heard this evening. Next month, mark your calendars, same time. It is December the 18th, same channel. We have the beautiful David Player, who is a Louisiana native scholar, an ASL and Deaf Studies program in California State of University in Sacramento. He's going to be sharing with us his incredible wisdoms and his journey as the beautiful Dezbaa has. If you want to share Dezbaa's incredible information, you can in the next 48 hours. Just go to our website, IndigenousWays.org. In the virtual library, you'll see her amazing presentation there. Please feel free to share that. And if you're on social media, those are the ones that are flashing below us. Please subscribe, like our pages. We've had over 200 presenters in this format in the library, and they're there for everyone. And also, you'll see in our website, you can subscribe to our newsletters to find out what has been going on. All of our programs that we provide online, in person, hybrid, are free. And also, we provide ASL interpreters, making access available to all. I also want to give a big shout out to our sponsors of the Wisdom Circle, where we're in now, the City of Santa Fe Arts and Culture Department. Also, I want a bigger shout out to our Indigenous Ways board. Some of them are here with our amazing president, Michelle Redman. So thank you for your ongoing support, and also to those amazing donors. Now, we've been having so much fun. Next week, it is Thanksgiving. Some of us call it Harvest Day. We give thanks every day. The fact that we were able to open our eyes in the morning and be blessed with whatever happens in the day. But after Thanksgiving is a global sensation for all nonprofits around the world. It's called Giving Tuesday. We are also a part of Giving Tuesday. So if you want to support our organization, you can. And it's also end of year giving, which happens to be Tuesday, December the 3rd. You can go to our website, IndigenousWays.org, and to the donate page, where we will be part of both of these incredible campaigns. This year alone, we have had 3 festivals, 14 virtual events, including 11 of these wisdom circles you're in. We've supported 46 Indigenous artists, 35 Indigenous artisan vendors, supported it as well, 24 contractors, 36 ASL interpreters, over 2,936, who's counting, hey, in-person audience members, and over 400 online live. So thank you for all of you joining us now. and thousands more that have watched our virtual events that are in the library. We could not do any of this without you. So I want to thank each and every one of you. And then I'm just going to come back live and also go, if anyone wants to come and join us, we've just got a few minutes. What happens now when we've got the beautiful Destiny, who is also here? If you want to go in now and turn on your cameras and all of that good stuff, you can. I'm going to take us all off spotlighting, and then we'll be able to see you all, hopefully without me being here. There we go. What are we looking at? Whoa. Okay, we've got 2 minutes. Tash, what do you want to do here?
Oh, let's say hi. Donna, would you like to say
Yay!
hi?
Wow.
Hey, Donna, what's up from Ohio?
Hi, Dezbaa, this
Oh
is
boy,
fabulous.
can't hear anything, Donna. I gotta take that mute off.
No, I can hear you,
is.
Donna. Go for it, darling.
All right. So thank you, Dezbaa, for your performances in Dark Winds. And I think I heard you say you were part of the screenwriting team as well. So yay for you. That's awesome. That's living a dream for me. So I'm very happy for you. It's gonna snow tomorrow here in Columbus, so I've been busy getting ready for that, and just always want to tune in and hear the wisdom that I learn here.
I think we've got time for
Awesome.
1 or 2 more, Tash.
I'd like to say, let Joel and Cindy say something to us from Minneapolis. Just need the voice.
Hey,
Hello. It was amazing.
Hey.
We're
Yeah.
here with Juniper the cat and sending love your way. Thank you so much.
we're coming back. I think this is our first one. We're
Woo-hoo!
coming back. It's wonderful.
That's because you've got better internet services out there in the woods.
All right. Last one, Mimi Gonzalez. Want to say something real quick before we sign off?
I'd like to say something. This Homer.
Hey,
Oh, yes, hey,
Homer.
Homer. Oh, Rita,
Yeah,
hey.
I was really impressed. One thing that really impressed me was when Dezbaa was talking about the when she was getting ready to had the offer to California, and she thought about her child, and making that commitment to both her and her child. That was just awesome to me that she took that step. I was really moved by that. So, but I really think overall the presentation was excellent. I'm glad I joined in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Homer.
Yeah, Homer. Quidda, that's about all the time we have, everyone. We love you all so much. Thank you for coming in. And Arletta, my friend from Lukachukai, who taught me sign language so many years ago. Love you, Arletta. Miss you. We need to catch up soon.
All right, thanks, everyone. We shall look forward to seeing you next month. Thank you, the interpreters. Let's give it up for the one and only Dezbaa!
Thank you.
Touch the earth. Feel the rain. Touch the earth, touch the earth, touch the